Just 15 miles south of Aircheck.
Oh, roger, roger. And the name is?
Name is Roy, Romeo, Oscar, Yankee.
Roger, roger, Roy. Well, we are running our QSO-VLOG recorder this morning. Just started. So we record and then later put it up on YouTube there in a couple of days. So if you do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor on YouTube, that'll bring up our QSO-VLOG page. And what we normally do is for the title of the show, we do the date and frequency. So it would be 9/14/18 and the frequency 7189. Roger, roger.
QSL, yeah, that'd be interesting to see what this ring sounds like out there.
Roger, roger. Well, I'm catching you sometimes about 3 dB above my noise level, but you know, pretty noisy, but you can hear the audio. Roger, roger.
You're coming here 5 by 9. I have you at about an F7. I assume that's with the kilowatt running.
Oh, roger that, roger that. And that last time you came up quite a bit. We had Mother Nature lost her mind and gave you a 10 over.
QSL, well, you know, occasionally she likes us up there, I guess, I don't know.
Roger, roger. Well, my way of thinking is 100 watts at 300 plus miles should be a 9 at least, you know. So Mother Nature has not been very generous lately, Roger.
QSL, well, I guess actually it's the sun that's not been too generous, but we can't fight with it. It's a little bit stronger than we are, I guess.
Roger, roger. Well, I keep thinking about maybe trying a different time, you know, moving our QSO-VLOG to the afternoon on 40 might make a little more sense than in the morning. And I may play with that this afternoon, kind of same frequency, but maybe 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and see what kind of conditions. I would think conditions should be better on 40 at that time.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's 20 will pick up by then for sure. But actually, I do pretty good on both 40 and 20, except for when the bands are just playing down.
Roger. Well, you know, I think there's a lot of folks that are opting for 20 and 40 as opposed to 40 and 80, you know. I guess by today's standards, some folks don't have room for an 80 meter dipole, Roger.
Yeah, QSL. Actually, I'm running a random M-setting antenna, so it's non-rental. And with the internal tuner in the radio here, I can tune it up on every band up through 6 meters. 10 meters, my worst one is about 2.5 to 1, but the rest of the bands are pretty good. But yeah, unfortunately, I can't bring in 80 meter. It's just a little bit above what the internal tuner can handle, and I haven't gotten around to getting next to it.
Yeah, Roger, Roy. Well, you know, those outboard antenna tuners are really great these days. They can tune maybe 6 to 1. A lot of them tune 6 to 1 or maybe more, you know, whereas the internal antenna tuner on the radio probably does about, you know, about a 3 or so, Roger.
Yeah, QSL, we're all rated advertised very low off range. They say 3 to 1 or better. Yeah, that's about it. What is the FWR meter? 80 meter, I'm at a little over 5 to 1. So I'm pretty sure that an external antenna tuner would be, I don't know what is it, I think 30 to 1 or something like that.
Wow, that's that. Obviously, though, you know, the antenna tuner is just matching a poor antenna to your radio. And you know, a 30 to 1 or something is, you know, that's next to oh well, I'm not going to get out real well on the 30 to 1 match, Roger.
Oh yeah, QSO. Well, then the other thing too is that I'm running a random length antenna, which means that it's not resident on any of the bands that I talk on, and yet it seems to radiate pretty well. Now, of course, 80 meters, you know, that's a lot longer. The driven element of my antenna is only 35 feet long, but I do have several counterpoise rods, and of course you can bringing the impedance down to something that's
Well, Roy, I did lose you that time. Conditions did fade out that time. So let me say threes. And again, we are recording our QSO-VLOG, and if you check on YouTube in the next couple of days, we'll probably have it posted, and it will be entitled the day's date, my group, today's date 9/14/18, and the frequency 7189. So we'll say threes for now, and we'll catch you later. Have a good day, sir.
All right, QSO, thanks for coming back. Nice feedback. With us there. I went from a 10/9 down to the noise level. That's a pretty wide spread there. So anyway, thanks for coming back. Nice feedback, and we'll get up to those 703.
This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. We are recording our QSO-VLOG for Friday morning on the 7189. Anybody have a radio they want to check out the audio, give me a shout. We are recording KC9VKV. I hear one station towards my noise level, matter of fact under my noise level, so I won't be able to copy. I could hear you, but I could not pull out the words. Roger, roger. Oh, if you do have some fire in the wire, put it on. I would love to be able to speak with you. If you have a couple of 100 watts or KW or some antenna directionality, bring it on. We're towards Louisville, Kentucky.
WW4PW, standing by.
PW station, good to hear you. Come back with a call again, please.
Yeah, that other fellow's trying to get a hold to you. Go ahead and clear with him, and I'll try to get back to you in the Mobile. We're over here in North Carolina back to you.
Oh, Roger, sir. Yeah, he's right at my noise level. I can hear him, but I can't understand him. You know, I can't pull the words out. So whoever that was at my noise level, threes for now. Maybe we'll try later when conditions get better. Roger, roger.
Yeah, I think he's gone. Anyway, I know this is sound like a stupid question, but the face on my radio doesn't work. I got one of them 9. I'm gonna look at it in a minute. 891s, and the face went out, so I can't tell what frequency I'm on. Would you be kind enough to tell me where we're located?
Yes, sir. You seem to be real close to 7189, Roger.
Okay, 7189. And you say 7.189. Okay, because usually we use 80, you know, but like I say, I usually lock this radio, and somehow or another it got unlocked, and I didn't know where I was. My name's Paul, WW4PW, and I'm camping out on if you're just about 30 miles north of Western, I'll say west of Western Salem.
Well, you're getting wet right now, aren't you, Paul?
No, sir, it's not raining here. We got some sprinkles on the windshield now, and the wind itself's only about 12 miles an hour in gust, but It's not bad. I've seen it this way on this mountain, which we're on Hanging Rock. I've seen it here in Hanging Rock like that when they didn't have no storm headed this way come up.
Roger, roger. Now, are you visiting or do you live there, sir?
We're in RV. A lot of times we come up here and we camp host. And they got a special spot that, see, there's no sewage up here except for 2 spots. And we come in as a volunteer. We're not really doing anything, but they call us a volunteer so we can stay for, they let us stay 2 or 3 days a year up here. And the other part, we usually camp host. And sometimes we stay 2 months when we're camp hosting, but right now we're just dead weight.
Roger, roger. Well, you're sounding really good. You're getting out of there. You just running 100 watts?
Oh, no, I'm cheating.
Well, I'm not sure what that means.
Let me see. I could be running anywhere from 400 to 500 watts. I've got one of them Ameritron 500Ms, which is a solid state unit. Now, I probably need to fire the engine up to keep it keyed up. But fact is, it does a fine job.
Oh, well, I'll attest to that, Paul. I mean, gosh. And I was just going to really congratulate you on banging with 100 watts, but I can see what that's all about now. You got something under the hood there causing a big drain on the battery.
Yeah, I do. But it's also using a Tar Heel. It's not the small one, it's the big one that takes all of the wattage that I can afford to put in it. But the fact is, it's a real fine antenna. Other than it's a little stiff, you have to watch any kind of little limb you're going under. And other than that, it's just a fine little antenna.
Roger, roger. Now, let me see. You're running an inverter to do all this?
Oh, no, all this is 12 volt. That Ameritron there was just 12 volt hooked up to it doesn't have its own power supply back there.
Oh, so your amp is a 12-volt amp?
It is. It runs off 12 volts. This whole system, as a matter of fact, one of the homes, a lot of times I run it on solar power, the whole thing.
Wow, man, really sounds good. Do you have blowers on that? I'm sure you do. How many blowers are you running on that box?
I don't have a clue what's there. I think there's just one fan in it. Let me look. Believe it or not, I got books and there's stuff stacked on top of it. I might need to clear that up. What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't put anything on top of it. I'd let that heat get out as best as possible. I keep that top clear, Roger.
Oh yeah, what's the name? My name's Paul.
Roger, Paul. Name here is Jim, Juliet, India, Mike, and we are doing our Friday morning QSO-VLOG recording. We do a recording of our QSOs and then post them on YouTube in a couple of days. So if you might be interested in checking out your mobile, Smokin' Mobile there, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that'll bring up our QSO-VLOG page, and on that page we'll entitle this one My Group, and then we use the date 9/14/18 and the frequency is 7189. Roger?
Oh, very well. Yeah, that's a good deal. I'm just glad to be able to find out what frequency I'm on. I know I'm probably one KC on for y'all normally talk, but I'm going to slide down or up 9 more and see if my buddies are there. I hope I don't interfere with y'all. Y'all have a good morning. And I appreciate you getting back with us, and we're going to be standing by at this time. Every once in a while, the face of this thing will come up, and I can reset everything, but I'm not real satisfied with this particular radio. It's a good radio, it talks fine, but if you can't see the front of it, it's not like having a car with a dead battery. A brand new car with dead battery ain't no good, and the radio that doesn't show you a face, it just very seldom is any good. So, and let's get a nice fellow like you tell me where I'm located back there.
Roger, Roger. Well, now maybe next time at the closest Hamfest, you can find those guys that are selling those frequency counters, and you know, for maybe 40 or 50 bucks, you can solve your problem without having to send that radio off. Roger?
Oh, yeah. You know, I've never thought about it and wouldn't know where it hooked up. I've got one, but I don't think it would work on this particular radio. It's off of 520. It usually plugs in the back, and this hasn't got it's got some plugs back there, but I wouldn't have an idea what cord to put it on. You know, when I was I'm almost get bad here, but when I was on 11 meter, we had frequency counters that just tied into you would take and I think it went on to the coax, and the coax went out to the antenna, and it'd tell you what frequency you was on.
Oh, Roger. Well, I'm sure, you're running 400 or 500 watts. You'd probably just put a little piece of wire, a little stub wire off that frequency counter, and you'd be, reading the frequency you're transmitting on, which is what you're interested in doing, since we're doing simplex. So, what you're transmitting is what you're receiving with any luck at all. So I would take that freq counter and just put a little piece of wire on it, and you'll probably, be able to copy your transmit frequency real easy, Roger.
Yeah, now I'm mad. Because I didn't think about that myself, and I've been putting up with this about 6 months. All right, let me let you go. Maybe other people might want to get in there. And may the Lord bless you. WW4PW in the Mobile, top of Hanging Rock Mountain. We're standing by.
Roger Paul from Hanging Rock Mountain in that smoking Mobile. Boy, that's the best signal I've copied today, sir. So 3 is out of the way. And listen, you got some bad weather coming in, so every once in a while, it might be good to get over on the AM side or the FM side of your little portable radio and find out exactly what's coming your way, because that's a fairly large front. And they're talking 11, 12 or more inches of rain possible. So I know you're up on a mountain, but you got to get down there to get somewhere. And if you need to get somewhere, you might think about when to do that, because that much water can certainly cause a lot of flooding around hills. So 3's our way, Paul. We'll catch you later. It's KC9VKV.
Okay, me 3.
Well, the station that was calling West Palm, I'm not in West Palm Beach right now. I'm in just beside Louisville, Kentucky. Do you copy me? This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor.
Yes, I do in Kentucky, sir. Yes, sir. You're in a nice state where the blue grass is. I used to live in Florida. My name's Duke, KC2GLU. I'm in the Poconos up there 6 years. I'm from New Jersey originally, by the way. I lived in Florida when I was a kid. I lived in Pompano Beach, if you know what Compass Haven is. And my brother worked in West Palm Beach at State Road 7 there, 441. He worked in all people that used to make things and everything. But nice down in Florida for the winter time. Over to you, sir.
Roger. Come back with your call sign one more time, please, sir.
Okay. KC2, GRU, Kilo Charlie 2, come up, Illinois United. The name here is Duke, like John Wayne, the Duke.
All right, Duke. Even though I did write duck, let me revise that, Duke. And I still didn't. That call sign still. I haven't got it yet. So try one more time on the call sign, sir.
Okie dokie. KC2, GRU. KC2, GRU. Is that a Roger?
KC2BRU, is that a Roger?
That's a GRU.
Give me the last phonetically.
KC2, GRU.
Oh, well, I didn't copy all of that still. You're just about a dB or 2 above my noise level, but where are you located, Duke?
A Delta radio uniform.
In the Poconos, where all the bears and eagles are. Is that a Roger?
Roger on the Bears. There was a breaker. Go ahead, station.
Yeah, it's called as Delta radio uniform, just to get you squared away. WA4GZK in Atlanta. The name here is Bill. Over.
Roger, Bill. I appreciate that, sir. He was right at my noise level. You got a fine signal. You got a minute? Stand by, and we'll get to you, sir.
Sounds like a plan.
Duke, you still there?
Yeah, what is your name, sir? What's your name, Mr.
The name here is Jim, Juliet, India, Mike, and like I say, we are just across the river from Louisville. Downtown Louisville is about 3 miles away. I'm in a little town called New Albany, Indiana, Roger.
Oh, Indiana. I thought you were in Kentucky.
Well, you know, who ever heard of New Albany, Indiana? I'd said I was 3 miles on the other side of the river from Louisville. So, you know, I say Louisville, you know where we're talking about, Roger.
Okay, Jim, nice talking to you. The man did a little better, but I got heavy over here. About a 718 icon made about 3 or 4 mile wide. 25 feet up in the trees over here with a dipole engine. It's been pleasant talking to you. Have a good weekend, Jim. Nice talking to you.
Roger, Duke, and just remember we are QSO-VLOG recording right now, so we have recorded our QSO and we'll post it on YouTube in a couple of days. So if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up our QSO-VLOG page, and the title for this will be my group. The date 9/14/18 and the frequency 7189. So with that, threes to you there, and have a good day, Duke.
Okay, before I go away, Jim, I got a good joke for me. Think you take a good joke?
A joke?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Virgin apple?
Go ahead with the joke.
The virgin apple, you never got a worm.
I'm afraid yeah, like I say, you're about a dB or so above my noise level. Try it one more time.
Did you hear about the virgin apple? The virgin apple. She never got a worm. She never got a worm, that virgin apple.
Well, there you go, sir. You got it. Have a good day, Duke. Threes to you.
Okay, Jim. After you sing, those who ring you.
And the other station has advised me of Duke's call sign. Are you still there?
I am. I think that was a rather corny joke. I believe I actually got it to some degree, but I don't know if it's worth repeating. Anyway, KC9VKV, WA4GCK, Germany, Zulu Kilo in North Atlanta. The name here is Bill Baker in the Lima. I was kind of listening up and down, expecting some sort of hurricane emergency net going on. I know that the 4th region will be coming up this afternoon, but I was trying to see if there was any current activity. And I did pick up one net seems to be viable. They're basically taking weather and information right now. Anyway, I heard you rolling in. You're about a 10 over 9, maybe a little more at times as Mother Nature giveth and taketh away. Over.
Oh, roger that. Yeah, we were talking just a few minutes ago with Paul, who was, I think it was, up around Hanging Rock, North Carolina, running about 300 or 400 watts out of his mobile. I think he was kind of vacationing up there, and I told him every once in a while he should check his AM or FM radio to see what the current situation is as far as that hurricane moving in his way. He didn't have much winds or rain at all at the moment, but you know, that's a fairly large front moving in, and they're talking quite a bit of rain, Roger.
Oh yeah, well, they're talking feet of rain. As a matter of fact, 3 to 4 feet, basically in one concentrated area, which is just going to get washed out. But that's the nature of the beast. It's slowed down. It's moving. The last thing I heard, 5 miles an hour. And it would be much better for any given area at this point for it to be moving 30 or 40 miles an hour. At least it would get through and out, and the rains could subside. But it is a very large storm in breadth, and it's covering a lot of area. It's blending with some high tides, and I hate to have anything that I cared about up there in that area. I've got a good friend who has an airplane sitting at the airport, in Morehead City, the county airport there, hopefully in a hangar. He's got a condo across the road from the ocean in Morehead City, and he has a boat there that's supposedly on the highest spot in the marina dry storage area, lashed down with 4 big ropes. So, of course, like he says, he's got insurance. That's what it's about.
Oh, roger that, roger that. But you still have an attachment to items, even though they are insured, and I just, I can't imagine all the pressure he must be under as far as, keeping his fingers crossed. Well, I mean, you run out of hands, you got too many items there. A boat and the airplane and then the condo, I don't know if this is facing east or not, but still in all, water can be pretty dangerous, particularly a bunch of water right there on the coast, Roger.
Well, between the wind and the water, all you got to do is take the windows out, and then the rest is pretty easy damage to structure. But he's, he gets it. He understands. You build something on okra coke, and it better not be too expensive. Or maybe you keep the materials for another one in your garage, and then when the storm hits, you go out there and clear the lot and start over. I would keep it real simple, I think, or even consider if I had oceanfront property up there, I would probably rather just drag a motor home up there or a big travel trailer and enjoy the spot. And then when I left, there wouldn't be anything for Mother Nature to steal except the footprints.
Oh, that's a Roger. Now, on the other hand, it might be a way to get a redecorating situation done for free, I mean, I assume that the condo's made out of concrete, so I doubt that the actual structure is going to go anywhere. It's just, if you get a broken window, all the stuff inside gets pretty well decimated, so maybe it's just a clever plan to get some redecoration, Roger.
It's pretty expensive redecoration, not to mention the hassle you have to go through to get it all redecorated. So you can try to put a good spin on it, but it's kind of tough to live it out. I don't even want to think about what would happen here. Of course, I have shot photography covering everything in this house, and I have multiple lists of important items in worth, and have that on file with my insurer. So if this house were to burn or to be ravaged in some way, I certainly have the proof of what all is here. And that's very important. When you really need it, you can't just pull it out of thin air. You'll forget a lot of things, and by having images, you have references, and by having actual lists, you're way ahead of most people, and a lot closer to getting paid for your claim, I think. Well, that's what my insurance agent said, so I've taken care of it. I've got to redo that before long, but so far so good. And hurricanes don't generally visit us here in Atlanta, although in '95 we certainly had a visitor, and that was an experience, but we got through it pretty well unscathed, and that's a good thing. Fine on your being where you are, juxtaposed there to Kentucky. That's a pretty area up there. I've been through there before, and well, so much of this country is the east. It's really amazing, all the way up into, I spent some time all the way up into Manchester, Vermont, and Albany. Of course, we stayed in Albany for a night, went across the river over to Bennington, Vermont, and that's pretty country up there. Went by Hemmings, which is the biggest thing in Bennington, I guess. Went on up to Manchester, where Orvis has been located for years and years, and visited with some friends there, and so I've had a nice trip up through upstate New York and up through that area. Very pretty up there.
Oh, Roger, Roger. Yeah, and your audio is just beautiful, Bill. It's about a 3 dB dynamic range, probably running about 70% or 75% average peak modulation. Really, really good, Roger, Roger.
Well, I'm glad this is my upstairs station. This is an FT2000. Actually, a fella had this radio, and a friend of mine caught wind of it. It quit transmitting, and the guy who had it had called Yazoo, and for some reason he thought there was going to be this huge tab for fixing it. And so he sold it to a buddy of mine for next to nothing, or maybe he gave it to him, I don't know, for parts, because he also has a 2000. And my knees have been giving me fits for the last year and a half. And I actually fell here in the den, fell from the kitchen to the den, which is only 4 steps, but I managed to blow out my left quad tendon. And what the quad tendon does is, of course, it attaches the quad muscle package in your upper thigh to the bone structure under your knee. And it's very difficult to use your knee without it. So I did that July 3rd, had surgery correct on July 20th. Fortunately, before all of this happened, because my main ham shack is downstairs, 10 stairs down, bedrooms at 10 stairs up, I had put together this ham station upstairs, which is an FT2000 and a Tentex Centurion amp that I have. And, of course, this station will work 80 through 6, no problem, 160 if I had the antenna out there. And so I wanted to be able to operate 6 with up to 200 watts during the active period this year, and so this worked out mighty fine. And I've set it up with an MD100 mic. I also have an FT5000 downstairs, and a TS990 Sugar is the other primary station in the main shack. So now I've added chair lifts, and so I can get on a chair and ride up and down the stairs, and my left knee is healing very nicely. So and only another short 6 weeks, I'll probably be getting around pretty strongly on that again. And I've been very happy to have this upstairs station to use, because otherwise, in these very inactive periods, letting my left knee heal and being in a brace, I probably would have gone stark raving mad. KC9VKV, WA4GZK.
Roger, Roger. Well, you know, I just wonder if you've got a chairlift for your equipment. I can't imagine your other station sounding as good as this one, boy. I mean, yours is just a beautiful signal and hasn't wavered. I can't give you an actual S-meter reading because we're running reduced RF in the front end to keep the best signals to noise ratio, so we're just introducing enough RF to get the job done. But I would estimate that you're somewhere around 30 over, somewhere in there, maybe, maybe hotter than that. Just unbelievable, Roger.
Well, that's good, and that's antenna. I'm 69, almost 69 and a half, and I've been very, very active all my life. I'm one of those who's gonna it's the old rest not, rust not thing. I've had a lot of hobbies, cave diving, I'm a pilot, this hobby, and of course fly fishing, camping, and just generally out of doors. Shooting, target shooting is in skeet shooting, and of course I also enjoy ultralight shotgunning, meaning 20 gauges, 28, 410 for things pheasant size and smaller. So I've led a very active lifestyle and enjoyed it. But unfortunately, I've had a couple of twists and turns in the last 5-6 years, and they have slowed me down beyond what I would have imagined 10 or 15 years ago. But I'm staying with it. As soon as I get this leg straight, it'll be time for fall fishing and getting out and maybe doing a little bit of light gauge skeet shooting, and I might even get a hunt or two this year. Just to get that in and convince myself I'm not dead yet. Right now, I'm on a 2-element 40-meter beam that's generally licking in the northeasterly direction. It's a little bit to the east of you. But that's it. And according to this thing, I'm running about 550 watts. So I'm glad the audio works out. I have a good friend who has an SDR, and I set up all 3 stations the same way, with the same basic bandwidth and frequency response. And so that's what I stick with, and it seems to do a pretty good job. But I'm curious what you're running. It sounds good here as well, and you're 10 to 15 over here on this FT2000 KC9VKV WA4GZK.
Roger, Bill. Well, what we got here is a homebrew condenser microphone into an ART preamp, into a 3rd octave equalizer, into up top, and then it goes into a 6-position rotary switch that we can select the radio for the microphone, so it's kind of like a house microphone, and then a little toggle on, toggle off switch. And right now we're going into a Yaesu 990, and from the 990 into SB 220, and then up to the dipole. It's an inverted V at about 35 feet, Roger.
Fine. Well, people ask me about my audio chain, and I tell them, yeah, it's about a 5-foot coil cord, and that's accurate. Oh me. Well, anyway, and of course I've been involved in audio all my life. I was in the broadcast business from the time I was 14, cheap labor at that point, but it sure worked for me. And then later, I discovered, oh my God, I have a career. And so I stayed after that. It's been years now past. I think I shut down. Being in Atlanta, you have an awful lot of opportunities. You can see the forest and the trees. And so around 1985, I opened an ad agency, a small full-service ad agency. I continued to write and produce commercial matter. And then when I opened the agency, of course, I was able to go print, and I was able to integrate my own hobby of photography on a professional level. And so it was great. I had a market. I created my own market for custom photography and ad layouts. And then, of course, I was able to satisfy that through the agency. So it was amazing. And I stayed in and out of broadcast up, I guess, the last year I was really involved was about, I don't know, 91, 92, 93. It could have been later than that. And then I started to, well, no, it was in the 2000s. I take it back. And then I created a small property rental company. And so I've stayed busy, and of course I backed off. I had a wonderful wife of 46 years. Unfortunately, she got caught by early onset Alzheimer's, and so after 46 years, I lost her. But ironically, in the ensuing months, I was checking up on some of my high school classmates, and my first real girlfriend in high school, grammar school to high school, had lost her husband in the preceding couple of years. And so I was checking in with her just to see how she was doing, see how she was coping. And one thing led to another, so we got back together after 53 years, and we're taking care of each other these days. So life is full of interesting twists and turns.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, we have a similar career. I spent 50 years in commercial broadcasting, and then after that got out before Clear Channel and got my own studio, and we did, it was a broadcast related studio in that we did a lot of mostly commercials, and we did some TV spots and like that, you know, and so it's been a good life. Thank God it was before Clear Channel, Roger.
Yeah. Well, I'm very thankful. I was born and I came up through life and was able to live in this country when I was able to do it, as I have been able to do it. WA4GZK for idiot identification. If you go back earlier, it was very sparse and there was a lot of struggle just to survive, as my grandparents related to me, and that's just the way it was. And then as we came up, I was born in '49, and so I was a post-war baby. I really think we lived through the best of the times, and I know people are always trying to say, well, you know, things will get better, and I hope that in a lot of ways they do. But things have degraded a dramatic amount in many ways to get to where we are now. So, we have become a lot more technical, of course, but quality of life has suffered dramatically over the last 30, 40 years in many cases, and that's going to be something hard to reconcile. But it's interesting, as Mason Williams said on one of his, I guess it was the Mason Williams Ear Show album of about 1967, isn't life beautiful, isn't life gay, oh meaning, isn't life the perfect thing to pass the time away?
Roger, better than anything else. But, looking back, I think the thing is that we came up through broadcasting when creativity meant something. And today's individual going into broadcasting, as far as being able to have an outlet for creativity, it doesn't exist because, Clear Channel has sought to single-handedly destroy the commercial broadcast industry in America. And that's unfortunate, and that, they're doing 1,400 radio stations being programmed by 3 guys in a basement in Syracuse. It's really unfortunate that, AM broadcasting or commercial broadcasting in America has been reduced to such a low ebb, Roger.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, I remember back when AM broadcast the Clear Channel biggies like WSB here and WWL and WLW, and those stations were the kickers. And then, of course, somebody came up with a brilliant idea that FM radio would start to replace them, Class Cs, and they did. And that was a big thing. Took a little while, but it happened, certainly. And I was fortunate to be involved during that period. It's kind of there are 2 distinct periods, I think. The early days of radio and television, when the simple creativity, good humor, and all of the pioneers in television and radio. There was just so much going on from the 30s forward. And then now, I'm not sure what the heck it is. If you want to listen to music, you can go and pick it off the satellite and hear that without all the crap. And the rest of it seems to be talk shows. Pick a channel, pick a subject, pick a political view, whatever. It's out there, that and religious. And as far as news these days, TV, since they've come along with micro-sized cameras and trucks with hydraulic antennas and microwave back to the station, all of that. We used to do that from cars and broadcast. now they're doing it from trucks, and they're doing it with TV and with choppers and radio. Shoot, man, it's just from what we knew of it, it's just gone. In fact, I'll be surprised if anything stays on the regular broadcast bands much longer. Here in Atlanta, if you need to know what's going on with the weather right now, you go to one of two primary television stations, and they've got radar coverage, and they use it, and they take the place of what used to be radio. And instantaneous reporting, all of that's been replaced by TV now, to the point that it's useless. You're better off to have a TV on emergency power with an antenna system or a handheld radio that will cover TV frequencies digitally now.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, it's it's just a matter of I think still creativity. If you build a creative place, they will come, whether it's audio, video, or whatever, It's just that creativity is being challenged by frugality, shall we say, or just the inability to have any bucks. Clear Channel is so severely strapped for cash that they can barely keep the doors open. I think they've sold all of the land under their towers and then leased the towers space back. So it's really pathetic, and eventually all that is going to come to a screeching woe someday, as far as Clear Channel is concerned. And there's going to be a lot of stations that are going to be affected by that, and hopefully they will, some of them will, or most of them will come out on top. Hopefully nobody goes silent in the transition. Roger.
Well, I guess we'll see. It could be that and I think the basic motivation there is just greed. Got to be bigger, better. And oh my God, it costs money to do that, and the money's not really available, so we'll own everything and wring that out of a marketplace. But as you say, look at who has the money now. Look at it from a marketing standpoint. And folks like us go to television or we go to satellite. And radio lacks it just lacks much to be desired these days, which is sad. Because when I came up through it, it was awesome, and I enjoyed it very much. I was very active in my high school in sports and in in the senior class hierarchy. I was the president of my senior class, and I was the only person that I was aware of who was 15 years old and had an afternoon drive radio show with 5 high schools listening to it. So, that was kind of a kick. It didn't hurt my ability to get a date. And I got cheerleaders from three opposing high schools to come and cut little promos for me, which was a lot of fun. So I had a big time at that point, and I just really was fortunate. And the owner of the station saw cheap labor because I was the only person he'd met my age who was not mic shy. I had my ham ticket and was general class, and his eyes about bugged out of his head, and he was thinking cheap labor, tied to the high schools. And so he gave me this sheet of news copy and said, when the red light comes on, kid, give it a read. And I made a few mistakes for sure, but it worked out in the long run, I'd have to say. And I've talked with a lot of my friends from over the years about it. And we've decided that there are a lot more boring careers that you can be involved in than some facet of radio or TV broadcasting. KC9VKV, WA4GZK.
KC9VKV, roger that. Yeah, at 15, I hopped a Greyhound bus with $50. I had the radio bug so bad, I had to get a job in radio. And so I hopped a Greyhound with $50, and About 60 miles away. I got off at, well, let's see, my hometown was West Palm Beach, and so this Greyhound went west, and there's a place called Lake Okeechobee, and there was a town there called Pahokee, and then next to that was a town called Belle Glade, I think it was. And so I got off at Belle Glade and went to the local radio station there. It was during the summer, and they didn't have any openings, but they said, you know, you might want to check over at Pahokee. There, I think there may be something there, you know. So I had to hitchhike from Belle Glade to Pahokee, and sure enough, man, they were going through summer vacation. So at 15, man, I got my first job, morning sign-on, and then back from I think it was noon till 3 or something like that. And it was really neat. This was when the station was going through that BMI month where you had to log every radio, every record that you played for, you know, so they could get their money. So I would always do that after I got off the shift. So you I'm trying to figure out how accurate that was, but that was my beginning there at 15. At station was called WRIM. It was right on the rim of Lake Okeechobee. Roger.
Yeah. Well, you know, everybody's got to have a start, and I didn't. Well, I appreciated it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I dated my first, well, my only wife to this point. She was long distance. She was about 35 miles away. We ran into each other, and it didn't take long for us to connect. And so we decided we were going to get married, but it was fun because she could hear the station I was on at that distance. And so I was able to get little messages through and play particular things. And you know, it's a very personal thing when you're at the other end and know what's coming and why. But it was a lot of fun. It was an extension of ham radio. And I enjoyed it immensely, and I have a lot of friends from that period, from my early year, first, second, third year. There are probably a dozen of us we still keep in touch from that period, hams from that period, and have a good time with it. Oh, man. Well, let's see. Oh, as you can tell, I'm highly motivated. I had to go to the doctor's office this morning. I wanted to go ahead and get my GP to pull some blood and send it into the lab. I've got a physical coming up, and I got back. Of course, I fasted and had some breakfast and the first mug of coffee, and I set the second mug of coffee here to bring down to where I'm sitting right now, and it's still sitting there, and I was wondering why I haven't waked up any faster than I have. That would be the explanation for it. But yeah, I was looking forward to today. Yesterday I ran all day, and screwed up knee notwithstanding, I was out there amongst the traffic and getting things done. Today I woke up and it occurred to me after running in to see my doc, I don't have anything I actually have to do all afternoon, and so that's wonderful. I'm gonna enjoy it, and I am enjoying it now. But I'm gonna enjoy it, and as the afternoon rolls on, it will be nice to take it easy. And then tomorrow, they've pushed the Georgia game up to 12 o'clock, so we'll have a noontime appearance. It won't be a heavy-duty game. We're playing MTSU, which is Middle Tennessee State, and that's I don't know why we've got them in the schedule other than it's sort of a breather going into the next few games, which will be a lot stronger to deal with. But we're real pleased. I graduated from UGA, and Athens was where my second and third stations in my career were. And that was back in what I would call the heyday of owner-operators. We had just a kicking AM station in Athens that up until the mid-'70s, early '80s was just dominated things, and it was a wonderful place. I worked there, was on air, did some news in addition to that, and sports. And that was one of my most fun assignments in the business. But I think back, and I remember most of what's transpired with a lot of appreciation for it, because it's been interesting. And of course, before it was all over with, I ended up here back in Atlanta by 1978, and I stayed here. This is where I was born, so it was good to come back here. And I've been here ever since. Let me kick it back to you, and you might be getting ready for lunch or something. I'm staring at this cup of coffee. I think I'm going to heat it up and sip on it and try to decide what I'm going to do with the rest of today. KC9VRV, it's been a pleasure to run into you, Jim, and always enjoy chatting with a fellow current or ex-broadcaster, WA4GZK.
Roger, Bill. Call is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor VKV. And my pleasure. 3 is that away, sir. And we are doing our QSO-VLOG recording this Friday morning, and so we will be posting our QSO here in the next couple of days. So if you happen to be go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up our QSO-VLOG page, and we'll be labeling this program with today's date, 9/14/18 will be in the title, and also the frequency 7189. So usually we have too many call signs to put all the call signs in the title, so this will have the date and the frequency, so you'll be able to tell which one is which. So 3 is that way, Bill. Really enjoyed it, and you have a real good day. Stay healthy. Remember, as you get older, it takes 3 times longer to heal than what it used to when we were puppies. So do exercise caution there. That's the word, because you don't want to spend a lot of time recuperating, but obviously better recuperating than not. Anyway, 3's Bill, and we'll catch you later. This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor.
Okay, well, you don't feel like you have to put that up on me. I've had enough feedback for thousands and thousands of hours. I don't even think about it anymore. But if the rig's working and it's bearable, that's a fine thing. And so anyway, it's good to meet you. You have a good day, and who knows, before we die, we may see the trend in broadcast reverse itself. When the clear channels of the world explode and they can't justify existence anymore. I've still got a buddy who owns a couple of stations out there, and is an owner-operator, and he works hard. But we may see it all turn around, see them break up, see owner-operators show up again, and care about what they're doing, and having it be an extension of their names and their reputations again, and you never can tell. Things can certainly come full circle. And I thought I got your call right. Maybe I didn't. KC9 Victor Kilo Victor, WA4GZK 73.
Roger, Bill. 3's that away, sir. And hopefully the broadcast industry will be a lot better with the demise of Clear Channel iHeartRadio when it occurs. Hopefully the broadcast station is 1400, I think. Hopefully they will have a soft landing when all that goes south. 3's to you. Catch you later. KC9VKV clear.
KC9VKV. from K2KXK. What's say, Jen?
Hey, Ken, what's happening, sir?
Not too much. It's been a while since we hooked up. As a matter of fact, I think the last time we spoke, the log says, I guess the log says it was 6:15, so it wasn't all that long. Right?
Roger, Roger. Now, what's been going on with you, sir?
Well, not much. I don't remember. I guess. Well, I don't remember us talking when I had the Flex here, but I guess we must have because I've had it since before then. But we do have the Flex 6300, and I guess that's about. I don't think we've had too much changes on this band since June. We do have a X beam we got up for 20 and on up, but obviously can't use it here. And we're kind of battening down the hatches, waiting for what we're going to get at Florence. We're about 110 miles inland, and it's just made, it's just very, very slowly moving inland now. I think it's down to 4 knots or so forward direction. So we've got a little bit of breeze here, and I guess we're going to see how the guy wires on the hex beam do. Go ahead.
Oh, Roger that. Now you got to look at your ALC. You've been a lot fatter than what you are. I mean, you're hitting it, but you're not real fat. Look at your ALC and see if you need to come up mic level a little bit.
Yeah, very good. Well, we'll crank it up there a little bit, see how that does. How's that sound? KC9VKV, K2KXK.
Roger, it's coming along. Usually you're running about 3.5 dV dynamic range, which is really good. But if you don't push it there, that like I said, my thing on ALC is mid scale to the right, close to max, but not over max. Roger.
Yeah, very good. Well, the Flex doesn't really display ALC. They display the level, which they call, what they call level, which is kind of mic level. And then, of course, the compression level. But, of course, it does have all kinds of equalization capabilities. So we certainly could fatten it out there. With the areas where you think dynamic range, the compression really is a little different on this radio. What they call it processing. There's boosted up. There's really only a couple of positions for it. There's really only 3 positions for the processor. This is the high one that they call DX Plus. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's too high.
Yeah, I would think so. But we can bring it up in the low mid range, which we kind of have it rolled off pretty good at 250 and 125. Here, I'll give you a little more at 250 and see how that sounds. That might be more to your liking. KC9VKV, K2KXK.
Yeah. That's a little more warmth there. And I need to shut up. I just see I want to see a little fatter signal, and that's just my situation, so I'm always on folks about the ALCs and, making sure that you can be all you want to be and be somebody else if you want to be that too, Roger.
Yeah, very good. Well, I want to just make sure I have, pleasant sounding audio that will get through the QRM when I need it to. And, don't wind up too broad. So we've got the low cut set at 150 and the high cut at 2950.
contact.
And that's typically where we leave it unless we're really trying to scare up some stations that aren't really hearing us good.
I'm in the database.
I was just copying that. Was that you on 2 meters or something?
Excuse me?
This channel's in operation. Who we got there?
You got KC9VKV in West 7, North Carolina.
Well, Roger, Roger, sir. Well, welcome to the frequency. They got Ken K2KYX on the other end there.
Well, Ken, top of day, good morning to you.
Roger, Roger, Roger. You got much wind where you are? You're in North Carolina, right?
Excuse me?
You're in North Carolina, is that correct?
Yeah, West 7, North Carolina. That's KC4VW. I'm on a database.
Well, all right. You getting much wind where you are?
That's West 7, North Carolina. I'm on a Mark 5, run 200 watts in an Alpha Delta DXCC antenna, and it's resonating right now, but I got a Yaesu FI-2100B I need to hook up over here.
Roger. Wind. Are you getting much weather? Wind?
Yeah, we get some wind down here in Carolina. It's not bad, but it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I hope my wire antenna don't fall down.
Roger, Roger. Well, I hope you got a counterweight on that antenna, you know, so as the limbs swing and sway, that counterweight swings and sways and takes the pressure off your dipoles, Roger.
Hey, Roger, yeah, I got 2 door springs in between it, so it'll fluctuate the movement in the antenna there. Roger, QSL?
Roger, Roger, on the door springs. Well, whatever works there, that's the whole idea, you know, because if you don't do that, you're going to be stretching out that dipole until it's be droopy drawers.
Roger, Roger. It won't talk good on the ground, will it?
Well, now, I don't know. It depends on your antenna tuner. I once talked to a guy up in Michigan. He had just put up a new rope on his dipole, and it turned out that the local squirrel population really loved the rope taste, I guess, and so they did proceed to chew the rope in half, and his dipole wound up under 2 foot of snow. And he was still talking to me, Roger, Roger.
Hey, QSL, yeah, I tell you what, I have worn my arms out throwing a wrench up between the tree limbs there, QSL.
Oh, Roger, well, you need a spud sender. You know, one of these jobbers that shoots out a potato or something. You just tie a wire or a little piece of rope to that. It does real good. Or you can use one of those helicopters, those little quadcopter jobbers, and fly over and, do it that way.
Hey, QSL, I wish I could get a helicopter fly over and drop it down, but right now I have my apex on my Alpha Delta ZXCC is about 26 feet in the air there, Roger.
Roger, you say what are you running, a inverted V or just a regular dipole?
No, I'm running an Alpha Delta DXCC.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what that is. Could you describe that to me?
It is a factory-made antenna. It's called an Alpha Delta DXCC multi-band antenna.
Is it a wire antenna?
A QSL?
Roger, Roger. And does it have multiple leads on it, like a fan, or is it just a single in-fed or a dipole?
No, it's a fan dipole there, QSL.
Roger, Roger. And so what's the ends? How high is the, are you using a balun?
No, I have a push-up mass pipe about 36 feet in there, and I got the Alpha Delta Apex about 26 feet. I need to get up higher, but right now it really works good, though. I mean, the stand the waves down, but it won't resonate on 80 meters.
Roger, Roger. Well, you can't have everything, you know. It takes real length of wire to be able to do 80. You know, not abundance, but just, you know, more than 40 for sure. Well, listen, you're doing real well, and I hope that the wind and the hurricane and all that treats you real good, Roger.
Hey, QSL, thanks for the flowers there, Roger.
Roger, Roger, and we are doing our QSO-VLOG recording, so if you want to hear your station, in a couple of days we'll post this on our QSO-VLOG page on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, that'll take you to our QSO-VLOG page, and we'll be entitled this QSO by the date 9/14. It's my group 9/14/18. And the frequency 7189, so those will be in the title. Roger?
Hey, Roger. Well, I'm going to say top of the day, good morning to you there. It's sounding good in the Carolinas. We got some wind coming in. I don't catch where you at, but I tell you what, you're sounding good down here. I got you 9 over.
Roger, Roger. What's the name there?
It'd be Phil. Phil, West 7, North Carolina.
Okay, give me your call phonetically, please.
KC4VW.
Roger, Roger, Phil. 3's that away, sir. Have a good day, and keep your head down.
Oh, I tell you what, it's good to get good contact with good hams out there with all the bad words and all the mess going on now. All right, well, I'm gonna back off here. I'm gonna say top of the day, QSLT. It's sounding good in the Carolinas. We are starting to get some wind from the storm down here. We'll make it.
Roger, Roger. 3's and luck. Catch you later. There's another station calling. Go ahead.
KC9VKV, morning, Jim. WA8 RNB. This is Liam, Troy, Michigan.
RNC?
Roger, Nancy, Baker.
RNB. Roger, Roger. And what was the name again?
The name is Lee. I'm supposed to see a few times this morning. Good morning to you. You're doing your wonderful service again. I'm on my backup radio. I'm on my Kenwood 570, and I'm running this through a small little amplifier, a Dentron amplifier, and using a mild microphone here. So I thought I would give you a call. You're sounding nice as usual up this way. Man, it sounds like it's a little long. I copied that North Carolina station really well.
Roger, Roger. William, is that correct?
Nope, the name is Lee. Love Easy, Lee.
Lee?
Yes.
Okay, Lee. You might check your ALC, sir. I think you could probably do with a little fattening there. If you have your mic gain, bring it up next time you transmit, looking at your ALC to put your ALC towards max, not over max, but towards max, at least in the mid position of the meter. Roger?
Okay, well, hang on. Let me give you a little more mic gain. Does that help out a little bit?
Oh, roger that, but you should look at your ALC, you know, consult your ALC as you do that, and so you're running mid-scale to the right of mid-scale on your ALC meter. Roger, Roger?
Hey, Jim, I'm going to get out of here.
Am I driving it a little strong? Is that what you're telling me?
No, not enough. Ken, I'll catch you later there, sir. Good to talk at you. And station, what we're looking for on that ALC is a nice fat mid-position or slightly right of mid-position. Roger?
Okay, sounds good. Let me look into that, and I will, I have to, gosh, I got the mic gain here at my hands, but I'm going to have to go through my manual here for the ALC. Go ahead.
You should be able, don't you have a multimeter rotary switch to select your ALC meter reading?
I think I'd be distracted here. My wife just walked in the room. Hang on a second. More. All right, hang on a quick second here. Let me. This is a radio that I'm not nearly as familiar with. Hang on a second here, Jim.
Roger that. Roger that. This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor.
Yeah, for Juliet 4, Yankee Victor.
Let me check into this. All right.
All right. Give me a shout back when you, figure your ALC where your ALC is. Other station. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is altitude.
Hey, Roger, good morning. We're here from the off-campus area of Marquette University, and we're just kind of tinkering with the EQ settings here in this FT891. But a beautiful, beautiful signal here in Milwaukee. You're like between 10 and 15 over here. Go ahead.
Roger, Roger. This is KC9VKV. And what was your call sign there at Marquette University?
Roger, we're in the off-campus area of Marquette University. Please copy Whiskey Delta 9, Hotel Oscar Tango.
I got you fine there, Hotel Oscar Tango. And what's the name?
And the name is Leroy, Lima Echo Romeo Oscar Yankee. You'd have to forgive my curiosity, but you're really doing a nice job on the meter here. What you running over there?
Roger, Leroy. This is a homebrew condenser microphone into an ART preamp, into a third octave equalizer, then up to the tabletop and a 6-position rotary switch to select the radio and a toggle on, toggle off talk, and then into an older Yaesu 990. Yaesu 990, and then into Heathkit SB220, and then up to an inverted V. Roger, Roger.
Wow, great picture there. Great picture. Thanks for that visual. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're basically running. We actually have 2 radios here. We've got a 991 and been tinkering with the 891 over here as well. I did talk to a fella on this stand here a while back, and he kind of walked me through the EQ, but he didn't have any...
Kilo Echo 8 Juliet November 7.
Standby station.
A broadcast engineer, so I said, hey, this is a good thing. He knows EQ, over.
Roger. Well, you know, it's only a couple of things you got there. You got EQ and you've got processing as far as compression, you know, and between the two, you can get from here to there, hopefully in good style, you know. EQ helps the intelligibility, and, you know, with a single sideband, you're only as good as your modulation, since your audio level determines your RF level. So hopefully, you know, you consult your ALC reading to be sure that you're maximizing the capabilities of your transmitter on single sideband. And the way I run my ALC is in the middle position towards the right, but not over ALC, not beyond my ALC reading, but right, kissing cousins to the top end of my ALC range. And that way, as you, you know, bring your audio level up to that position on your ALC, you are fattening up your signal, so to speak, and hopefully what you're looking for is around a 3 dB dynamic range. So between a nice good reading on your ALC and maybe into processing with your compressor, if you have a 1 to 10 possibility, if you run that compressor at about a 3, that will further help you fatten up your audio. Roger?
Okay, Roger, we have units of 1 going from 1 to 100, and I've been really conservative on the compression. Currently we're running 12% here, but if you think I could budge it up a little bit, I can definitely do that. But I'll do that later today. Thank you so much for that. That's great.
Roger, so if you've got a 1 to 100, if you run it at about a 30, that will be, you know, probably ideal, and you're looking pretty good as it stands, Roger. I'm looking at the output of my receiver on a VU meter, so I can see your audio, and I can see the degree of compression pretty much as far as the dynamic range of your modulation. And we want to be, I think, at about 3 dB dynamic range. which, you know, if you stop to think about it, your average peak modulation without any processing is probably around 30%. So as you add, as you bring up your ALC level, and as you put in your compression to about you know, a third of the possibilities, like a 3 out of 10 or a 30 out of 100, you're bringing your peak modulation up to about 65, 75%, somewhere in there, which is, you know, your signal will apparently seem twice as loud at that range. Roger?
Roger. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Okay, Luke, I'm going to back out of here, but I was trying to copy your call here. Can I have your call phonetically, please?
Roger, it's Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and we are QSO-VLOG recording this morning, as we normally do Fridays on 7189, starting at about 10:30. We do have a QSO-VLOG page, so we will take the recording and post it up on YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you're curious about what your audio sounds like, if you go to YouTube in a couple of days and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up our QSO-VLOG page, and the program for today will be called, I use the date and the frequency, so I call the program will be called My Group, the date 9/14/18, and the frequency 7189. Roger?
Roger. Thank you very much. A little background here with the station. We're running a dual band end-fed half wave here for 20 and 40 meters. And it's one of those LNR precision end-feds. And I needed to get something out of my window here without drawing any attention. and it's basically 18 gauge stranded copper weld that's coated with I think a black polyurethane or something like that. What's really nice about it is it does its job there for not drawing attention, which I'm on the third floor here of this little apartment here. These university apartments can be pretty small, cramped, and people always notice things. So they have to be real careful. But we're running pretty stealthy here. But the antenna seems to be working well. It's true. We have an SWR of 1.2 on the bottom of the general portion of tone, and it just goes flat from there. So I've been real lucky with the antenna.
Oh, Roger, yes. Very stealthy there, that 18 gauge. You probably can't even see that from the street, Roger.
Yeah, Roger, I looked on Google Earth the other day. I couldn't see the wire, but I could see the balun. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for all that great information. KC9, Victor, Kilo Victor, Whiskey Delta 9, Hotel Oscar Tango. Thank you so much.
Roger, Leroy. 3's up that way, sir. You have a real good day at Marquette University. And this is KC9VKV.
Kilo Echo 8, Juliet, November, Quebec.
Juliet, November something, station, come back with your call sign.
Kilo Echo 8, Juliet, November, Quebec.
Roger. This is Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor. What's your location, sir?
My location is in Dayton, Ohio. Only I work right now just in remote control. My friend Kilo Gold DPP in Raleigh, North Carolina, my friend.
Oh, you're in Raleigh, North Carolina now?
The Raleigh, North Carolina, this remote right now. This me living in Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio. Right now, this Dayton, Ohio. This working in the remote control.
Roger. Yes, I understand that you are in, at the moment, Raleigh, North Carolina, and your station is actually in Dayton, Ohio. Is that all correct?
Yes, sir, my friend, this is correct.
Roger, Roger. Well, being in Raleigh, North Carolina, how is the wind doing there?
The Raleigh, North Carolina, this is station remote. This is my friend, Kilo Golf 4 BPP. This is KEAJNQ. This is living in Dayton, Ohio. Right now, this is testing the remote control. This is very good working, my friend.
Roger, Roger. I hope you're copying me okay. I was just, you've got a hurricane coming up that way, and I was just curious what kind of winds you might be facing right at the moment.
Yes, okay. This is working right now. This is my cell phone. Cell phone is working the remote control, my friend. Right now, this Dayton, Ohio. Right now, this Dayton, Ohio. The remote control is North Carolina, the Raleigh, North Carolina.
Roger, Roger. Okay. Good enough, sir. Well, you're making the trip here to Louisville, or next door to Louisville. I'm about 3 miles away from downtown Louisville, just on the other side of the Ohio River. So you are making the trip there, Roger, Roger.
All right, that's good. This is my location, the local club, this bar, the Bellbrook Radio Club. This is my right club in here in Dayton, in Bellbrook. I live in this music.
Roger, Roger. You might, when you get back home, you might set up just a little better EQ on your audio. I would roll off some more bottom end. You adjust a little muffly on your interface. I would roll off maybe 3-4 dB at about 200 cycles or so when you get back home. Roger?
Roger, Roger. This is good. Okay, thank you for your recommendation.
Alrighty, sir. Well, let me say threes up that way towards Raleigh, North Carolina. You have a real good day. Keep your head down because that hurricane is coming. And I'm assuming that you're going to get some rain, pretty bad rain here. And they say that it's moving pretty slow, so they're talking a bunch of rain. So threes to you and best of luck up that way. Roger?
Roger, my friend. KC9VKV. This is KEAJNQ. Good morning to you, my friend. 73. Thank you. Good luck.
Roger, and again, the call sign is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and we are doing our Friday morning QSO-VLOG recording. So if you might be interested in hearing what your remote capabilities sound like on the air, we have been recording our QSO, and we will be posting it on YouTube in the next couple of days. So if you happen to go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up our QSO-VLOG page, and this QSO-VLOG will be entitled My Group, today's date 9/14/18, and the frequency 7189. So three is that away, sir. You have a good day, and we'll catch you later. It's KC9VKV.
Kilo Charlie 9, Victor Kilo Victor, Kilo Echo 8, Juliet November, Quebec. 73, my friend, thank you for the recording. My welcome here. I checked him in your channel YouTube for this one in fame. Thank you, my friend. 73, good luck.
Roger, Roger, threes. And there's about 2 or 3 other stations calling. I'll take the loudest one. The Victoria station. Come back with your call sign.
Sure can. This is Alpha Juliet 4, Yankee Victoria. The name here is Bob, Bravo, Oscar Bravo, located just north of the capital city of Raleigh in North Carolina, QSO.
Roger, Roger. And what's the name there?
The name is Bob, Bravo, Oscar Bravo, QSO.
Roger, Bob. And what kind of weather are you going into right now?
I tell you what, we're really lucky over here. Because I'm north of Raleigh and maybe about 45 miles south of the Virginia border. We're not getting hit too bad over here. Matter of fact, we're really lucky. We're really lucky right now. We've maybe got about 10-mile-an-hour winds, 15-mile-an-hour winds. That's about all. So we're grateful for that.
Roger, Roger. Well, hopefully it'll stay that way. You know, I understand this hurricane is tracking real slow speed-wise, forward speed-wise. So, unfortunately, it's dumping a ton of rain in you know, a limited area. So probably, no doubt, a lot of flooding going on in other places. Roger.
Oh yeah, it's pretty rough out there. And again, you know, we battened down the hatches over here, assuming we were going to have so much trouble, and it didn't. It looks like it's not going to happen that way. The most we'll see is maybe 25-mile-an-hour winds. Again, I'm on the outskirts, so I was very lucky to pick this location there. Over.
Roger, is that a QTH? Is that your home QTH?
Yes, sir. It is the home QTH. About 30 miles north of Raleigh, QSO.
Roger, Roger. And so tell me a bit about your station real quick.
Well, right now our dipole, center-fed dipole, is normally 60 feet in the air. We've lowered it, so we're probably down to about 30 feet. And it's not an inverted V. It's an actual V right now. That's how much we have to lower this thing just to prepare for the winds. And again, it's a center-fed dipole, lowered about halfway. The radio here is a Kenwood TS570, only 100 watts, 100 watts. The microphone is an MC60, you know, the desktop mic. And then, of course, you know the antenna, we're about halfway up right now. QSO?
Roger, Bob. Again, my pet peeve, you might check your ALC reading. Check your ALC reading and bring your mic gain up to where your ALC is reading in the middle to the right-hand side, close to max, but not over max. Roger?
Right now we are reading almost at the max. I'm watching it swing. We're like over 3/4, about 80%.
Roger, Roger. You know, I'm looking at your audio output from my receiver, and it was really didn't seem like it had much. Well, I'll tell you what. You know, if you were running about 3 out of 10 on your compressor, it would probably fatten it up. Your signal could, you know, do it with just a little flat fattening. You know, all things considered, but you know, obviously, you know, it's up to how you want to run it. But I would run it just a little fatter, Roger.
No, we can do that. I mean, I've got the processor off right now. I've had a lot of folks tell me to shut it off, so I don't know if it needs to be on.
Roger, why don't you try it? And what is it? 1 to 10 or 1 to 100?
I believe it's 1 to 10. Let me go ahead and turn it on.
Roger, just bring it up to about a 3. Bring it up to about a 3, Roger, Roger.
Yeah, okay. And again, I got the processor on. I've had folks yell at me to turn it off. So, you know, it's 10% there, over.
I lost a little bit of that. Try again.
Yeah, I got the processor on. I've got some tell me to leave it on. I got some tell me to shut it off. So, I don't know. Let me see. Okay, I got the compressor on right now.
Okay, now go back to your ALC reading and make sure that everything is copacetic on your ALC with your compressor in. You want to be under, you know, max situation, towards max, but not over max, Roger, on your ALC.
Yeah, okay. It's 3/4. It's about 3/4 of the way up. 3/4 of the way up on the ALC.
Roger, Roger. I think it's sounding better, sounding a little fatter, Roger, Roger.
Yeah, okay. You know, again, you know, other people hear it differently. They tell you to do this, they tell you to do that, and then others tell you to turn the thing back on. You know, it's different out there, over.
Oh yeah, Roger, Roger. Yeah, my thing is, you know, I just, you know, looking at signals, you know, your basic average peak modulation without processing is about 30%. So, you know, if you want to maximize capabilities of your radio, you need to get that audio up to about maybe 65% average peak modulation to 75%, and that will give you about a 3 dB dynamic range on your audio, which is a nice fat signal, Roger.
Yeah, well, I mean, also I've got the
K2YN.
which, the mic gain
Stand by.
100%.
I missed a little bit of that, but anyway, you know, you just run it and see if anybody salutes, you know. I think at a 3 out of 10 on the compressor, you're just, you know, barely using that, but it does really help to kind of fatten the signal a little bit. A 3 out of 10 is, I think, a good setting for the compressor. Well, anyway, 3's that away, sir, and we've enjoyed it. And again, we'll be posting our QSO-VLOG on YouTube. So if you happen to go to YouTube in the next couple of days and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up the page. And this QSO will be entitled My Group. The day's date 9/14/18 and the frequency 7189. So 3's that away, and we'll catch you later.
Near the West City of Raleigh. We'll be clear. Have a good one now.
Roger, Roger. K2YN, go ahead.
Well, I saw you on the pan adapter, and I thought I'd pay a visit. Wasn't sure if I was in the middle of something, so held back for a couple minutes. I see you were setting someone up. I could not hear. We're in Simpsonville, South Carolina here. The name is John. Go ahead.
John, let me see. Does pool ring a bell?
Billiards, pool, yes it does, yes it does. And is it Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor?
Oh, that's a Roger, that's a Roger. Now listen here, last time we spoke, we were doing real well until all of a sudden you disappeared, and I couldn't tell what happened.
Oh, the band probably swung out. I don't walk off on QSOs, so I probably just, as you say, disappeared. Several of those QSOs in the past here in the last month or two, where it's kind of disappointing because I open up and talk with them and they're 10 decibels over S9, and then I make a transmission answering some of their questions and adding some information, go back to them and they're S4, and I go, oh man, you probably missed half of it.
Roger, well, you know, 40 meters at this time of day doesn't tend to be particularly cooperative, you know, and it's a sliding scale from you know, where we are to down to the 100 watts, and you would think that normal situation, 100 watts, 300 miles, should be coming in at 8, 9, 10, somewhere in there, you know, but they're coming in like maybe a dB above my noise level, so it's you know, and then, you know, you and I, we talk along, and all of a sudden there's a 40 dB hit for, you know, an hour or so.
Yeah, 40 dB, that is huge. That's approximately 8 S units. Yeah, about 7 to 8 S units, which is a big swing. 25 to 30 is what I see typically sometimes. But, yeah, I got swallowed up, and that was it. Yeah, we're on some new equipment. I'm in the midst of setting up the station, a whole new station. I've got to pull away this cable from the wall and disconnect everything. It's going to be one of those. And set up all the new equipment and then cut custom length coax jumpers that I'll make right here, and we're going to take pictures of it when we're done and put them on QRZ. The first time actually that I have put a picture of my station on QRZ ever, and it will be because I may admit I may have a little pride behind this one. Go ahead.
Oh, roger that. Now, you might want to try something this time on your ground spider. You know, a lot of folks use that long copper bar around the back, and they attach to that. Well, I think the thing is about a spider ground is that you want to bring everything to an exact common situation. So I use a large split bolt, and I bring all of my grounds into that split bolt where it goes to the ground. So instead of having a long bar, which you know, actually it becomes like a wavelength part of a wavelength, depending on how long it is, you know. When you use a split bolt, you have an absolute commonality for all the grounds, Roger.
Well, yeah, I don't use the tube method. A lot of people have talked to me about put in a copper tube the length of your table and every one of your grounds directly to it, and that's okay. I suppose. I haven't had much worry about grounding here, but what I've done is essentially star, but I bring them all together. So, anyway, I appreciate the information, the advice, Jim, and how have things been going with you, by the way? Are you still YouTubing?
Oh, Roger, yeah. We have our QSO-VLOG page. Well, I don't know if I got to that point with you before we took a 40 dB hit or what, but, you know, we have our QSO-VLOG page on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, that will bring up the QSO-VLOG page. And then what we do is, since we talk to so many folks, we usually do about an hour and a half from 10:30 to at noon, which we've exceeded the speed limit on that. There were too many call signs to put in the title, so we usually just call the QSO My Group, and then today's date, which would be 9/14/18, and the frequency 7189. So you have a great QSO in one of the earlier QSO vlogs until we take that big hit. But anyway, it's on YouTube also if you know you remember what day it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back in the paper log. I don't do the computer log yet. We'll be more and more organized with time. I think I may switch over to the possibilities of a computer log. So we'll maybe try that out. Yeah, we have a lot of QSOs every day, Jim, so same thing, kind of. I get on about 4 or 5 times a day. I'm in retirement from electrical engineering, and if I'm not playing pool tournaments, which lately I have been lax on, more focused on the radio. Anyway, I get on around 9 in the morning, sometimes 11. It kind of goes like that, usually after 12 o'clock. It's a pretty dead period from 12 to 1. But today I put it on, I saw your blip. I go, now there's the signal. You're coming in great, by the way. Over S9, no problems. Plus, you know. And I said, I think I'll go down there and see what's going on. And it was, of course, it was you, Jim, and I waited my turn. But, you know, I'll get on again around 2, and then 5 p.m., almost guaranteed when my wife's here. She watches Little House on the Prairie, and I used to do that with her, and we do it together, but I've seen them all at least 2 or 3 times. I know them too well, so when she puts that on, I come down here and get on the radio at 5 until as late as 7 o'clock. And that's one of my big slots. So I talk to about 10 to 20 people a day easily. Some days a lot of people jump on the frequency, and it's more than that. Back to you, Jim. KC9VKV. This is K2YN.
Roger, John. Now you are a well, let's see, multiple time user on 40 meters, and I'm just curious, you know, I've been trying to do this QSO-VLOG thing in the morning between 10:30 and 11, and I'm not real satisfied with my 100-watt friends because the signals are, you know, at 300 to 400 miles, they're coming in like a couple of dB above my noise level. So you have worked this band all different times. What time on 40 meters do you think the band opens up the best?
Oh, that's interesting. What a question. You threw a heavy one at me. Because you know something, 40 meters is like a fickle woman. It attracts me. And I go, hey, baby, what's up? And then it says, things are good. And I get on, and then they switch in 15 minutes. I really feel for you on that question. because I've had a lot of good times 5 to 6 to 7 p.m. You know things are coming together then. Middle of the day is a real toss-up. I never know for sure. When I saw your signal, I said, that's it, I'm moving in. Because there were other signals, but they're the usual level. And late at 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., you know, you're dealing with the dinner crowd, too, that doesn't come in. Man, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to coordinate and get the best time slot for QSOs to put on the YouTube. But I know the best time for that would be, really, when I get on at 8, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock's not too bad, 9 to 10. But there are long communications. I talked to VK3MO, out there in Australia. A lot of people locally are not coming in at certain... It's very distance specific, I'll put it that way. I couldn't believe I couldn't hear Florida today, but Pennsylvania was coming in great. What you need, actually, I wish you could do, but it's impossible, and I'll throw it back to you, to guarantee that you would work stations, Sirius stations that have pretty good antennas and able to go legal limit. Now, you're talking about 100-watt stations. There are more of them, I'm finding out, than stations that are set up as I just described. I'm surprised, but actually 60% of my contacts are at what you described, lower level. Just 1 or 2 S units above the noise. And they're having fun. They have their little rig there and an inverted B or a lot of the popular my antenna, the half-wave NFED. And they, depending on who they talk to, they get a good, strong connection. But for overall operations, sometimes they come up kind of weak. Go ahead.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, I typically will come down to 100 watts just to let everybody see how their signal is coming in, give them an idea of what the situation is from, KW down to 100 watts. They kind of, understand then why they might be at my noise level, because I become towards their noise level at, when I drop down. So, it is discouraging because I do want to get the best possible signal from a lot of the participants that are running 100 watts, and at 1 or 2 dB above noise level, it's kind of hard to actually discern their signal audio-wise to try to help them. You got to have a little bit of a grasp on their audio to be able to suggest EQ or compression or stuff like that. But I think I'm going to try maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, see what that does, because 40, as I understand it, is a daytime frequency of band, and I think maybe 1030 is just the beginning of it. They're making a transition from 80 meters to 40 meters. 80 meters is kind of fading out, and 40 meters is fading in, and so maybe by 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 40 will be fairly well faded in, Roger.
Yeah, there may be a chance there, and given the day, depending on the day, you may get a real winner, or it may just be flat. I never know. I just get in and pitch. And we're using an 80-meter doublet right now at 75 feet. The amplifier is an Alpha 8410. And the matchbox is an AT4K from Palstar. The rig is an Anon 7000 DLE. And there are techniques that, one thing goes with another. The folks that are keeping it simple and just want to rig a mic and an antenna connection are at a slight disadvantage because a lot of the rigs don't load up with audio shaping equipment, audio enhancing equipment. Most of them have a simple EQ and compressor, and you never know what style of compressor. So some work better than others. There is a device called there's one that you can get very inexpensively, but it is a 19-inch rack device, 1 unit high, 1 3/4 high, 19 inches across though. It's called the Symmetric 421, and it is a leveler, okay? And a lot of the folks don't realize what a leveler can do for them. But it is an incredibly powerful tool. As you were explaining before about limiting the dynamic range a bit, and getting the audio to stand out a bit more. Levelers are very good at that, and compressors if they're of good quality. But the leveler brings up the low end and the high end. It pushes down and levels the high end like a compressor. But it also brings up the low end, the low side of your modulation, to talk just generally. Very nice device, Jim. Go ahead.
Roger. Is that a 3-band?
No, that is what I call a comprehensive or a universal. It is not split up into frequency bands.
Oh, Roger. Yeah, well, that's true. But there's a lot of capabilities in most HF radios today, if they're just used properly, that can really facilitate a much better signal than without them, from the standpoint of the ALC, bringing that ALC level up, that is like a limiter, a quick attack, a quick release limiter, so you can do a little bit of fattening there, but as with limiters, you don't want to push those because of their quick attack, quick release, they're prone to distort if you exceed the speed limit with those. So I would bring that ALC up into the mid position, maybe towards the right, maybe towards max, but below max, don't exceed max, and then take that compressor and run it at about a 3 out of 10, run it at about a 3 out of 10 or 30 out of 100, whatever, just engage that, and then EQ, depending on the mic you're using, you don't want mud, so you my typical response to EQ is half boost top capabilities, leave the mid-range alone, half roll bottom end capabilities, and start there, Roger.
Yeah, I understand. And in tough conditions, there are sometimes exceptions. But it's a smile, they used to call it, typically, to set up the EQ. A little bit up on the ends and flattening out in the middle. So, and again, depending on conditions, you may, and how your EQ works, the style of EQ, you may lower the energy in the low end. But, it's very interesting. We have a leveler in the Anon that's independent of the AGC, and that's kind of nice to have. But yes, let's take the 7300 as an example. That is a 2-band EQ, bass and treble. And I have found many times to set them up at a 0 for the bass and a +3 on the treble. Seems to balance out nice. Or a +1 on the bass and 3 on the treble. And that unit, actually, you've got to drive that one up, like you're saying. You've got to drive the AGC, ALC, whatever, up to near maximum. Almost in the red. Not quite. About 10% below. And then bring up the compressor to 4. And I've heard them just come to life. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that 7300 is just a beautiful radio. I mean, that is one of the best radios to come along in a long time. And, as far as that 2-band EQ, provided that it's top and bottom, and most folks are just going to leave the mid-range where it is, and just EQ, the top and the bottom for balance and preference. I think a two-band EQ, I wouldn't have thought it, but now that I think about it, two-band EQ can do just as good, because I seldom mess with 1K, because that's your, that is a given, and it's your relationship, the top end to 1K and the bottom end to 1K, that makes a difference, Roger.
You can do whatever seems to work for the rig. A real key is to be able to hear yourself. And one of the neat ways to do that I've done is, if you do have a PC in your shack, and a lot of people do now, to call up or get on Kiwi SDR and call up a receiver at the appropriate distance. As an example, I'm in South Carolina. I call up the Virginia. There are many of them in Virginia, but I call up, I think it's K1RA, their SDR receiver on my computer. Turn up my speakers on the computer, and then I speak into my equipment and hear it on the air on that computer receiver. And then you can really set it up. Some people have two receivers in their shack. I want to assume you don't, okay? And this gives them an opportunity to hear themselves. And they go, oh, that's muddy. And they go, roll the bass off a bit. And let's clarify that mid-range and highs. A lot of rigs, the Yaesu line, have 3-band parametrics and EQs, parametric EQs, and I have run into people that what they do is they roll over each filter by setting up their bandwidth too wide, and you want to tighten up those bandwidths a little bit so each EQ it does indeed control the gain of their particular band spread, their spread of frequencies. And so, like, bandwidths of 1, 2, and 3 are normal. I talked to a guy who was very muddy and undefined. He had every bandwidth set to 10. I thought, my God, all your filters are laying over each other. No definition. Go ahead.
Oh, roger that. Yeah, and the thing about SDRs is you definitely want to get one close to you, because if you get out there where you have a half-second delay time, it's embarrassing. I don't know, if you've done much talking with a half-second delay, but you start off and you go, you just can't cipher with a half-second delay. Now, another thing is a lot of these computer speaker systems have earphone jacks on them, so you can take a pair of cans and plug into your PC amp and be able to hear yourself on your earphones without any, the speakers causing any feedback to your microphone, to be able to more clearly hear yourself. Or the best way is to do a QSO-VLOG recording like we're doing, and then later on go to YouTube and do a call letter search for Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor, and hear yourself in all the glory, without having to even do any speech, words, Roger.
Oh yeah, well that's a very nice service actually. I hadn't considered that you are indeed recording these QSOs, and they can go back. That's a very good service in a sense. Besides entertainment and learning, you can hear yourself, which is learning too, I should say. Let's see now. Yes, the delay is there. And what I used to do were short transmissions like, well, how do you feel today? And then it goes, well, how do you feel today? It is funny what that delay is, isn't it, Jim? Go ahead, K2YN.
Roger. Now, the first time I worked California on 80 meters at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was using the Half Moon Bay SDR out in San Francisco, and I didn't have, I've got a an input select thing for different signals, and I didn't have it actually running in through that selector, and so I was dealing with an open a speaker from the computer as I was trying to do my QSO, and I was driving myself crazy. So I said, well, if this is going to be what it is, I have to make some modifications. So now I have a rotary input select switch into the mixer that I can select the radio output or the computer output, and I process the Half Moon Bay SDR just like I'm doing on this QSO, and it just works so beautiful. The thing is, though, when you back off the key, you will hear your last word coming back on the air. Roger?
Yeah, it's true, and that's a good setup. I ended up having to turn the volume down. My volume and bass and treble controls on my amplified speakers from the computer sit right by my rig, and I just reach over and turn the volume down when I'm making a transmission, and then I turn it back up when I'm listening to the other station, which is another thing to mention to folks. There are times when you can't hear everybody in a group on 40. It just is the way it is, and you call up an SDR receiver whatever location you think is appropriate. In my case, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Illinois, Florida, and you go, oh man, half the people I can't hear are coming in on Florida really good. So I turn the volume down when I transmit because it can hear me too. But I turn it back up when I'm done transmitting. Kind of manual, kind of archaic, but it does work. Go ahead.
Oh, roger that, roger that. Well, it's just so beautiful, SDR receivers, because, sometimes, like 2 o'clock in the morning, man, I've got a little tone voice IDer that I run. It's 5 seconds of tone, 5 seconds of voice call letter ID, and it's a loop, and I just roll it, let it roll, and then I go looking on the SDRs down in Argentina, and around the world, just checking things out.
Okay, there were, I think we have some folks out there, Jim. Shall we pick up one or two? I heard it's CQ.
Station CQ, come back with your call sign.
This is Kilo 4 with Tango Echo here in St. Pete, Florida. Over.
Kilo 4, what was the rest?
Whiskey Tango Echo.
Roger, and where are you?
St. Petersburg, Florida.
You're just above my noise level, but barely. Repeat again your location.
St. Petersburg, Florida.
I got you there, man. It sounded like you might have come up on mic. That's a good thing, Roger.
K2Y station.
Is there another CQ out there?
Get up on the mic a little bit is probably a plus. Let me do something here really quick, and that's Kilo 4 Whiskey Tango Echo. Yeah, I got you. This is Kilo 2 Yankee November. Rich, how you doing today?
Pretty good. My name's Mike. I just set up EQ on this cell phone.
Well, now, it doesn't have the strong punch, but it's balanced fairly well. I would probably bring up the highs a hair. On the 1200, you have 3 bands. How is your high parametric set, your high end? What's the center frequency, the gain, and the bandwidth? Go ahead.
Bandwidth is at 103,000, and I'm not sure which one that number that is.
103,000? I'm not sure about that. The bandwidth will usually be 1 through 10. The frequency would typically be in the thousands, yes. And the gain would be probably minus 10 to plus 10. It's going to have a range. Could you go to your menu? Which menus? Actually, I wish I had them memorized. I don't have them memorized. On the, we could help you on this. Go ahead.
Okay, looks like 100, 700, 715
KC9VKV.
K2YN. You want to go, Jim?
Yeah, sir, if you take your, you go to the EQ menu and take your top-end EQ. If it's 1 to 10, take it to about a 5 on your top-end EQ. Roger, roger.
Okay, I've got 2 of them. EQ 3 bandwidth and 2 per metric, EQ 1 bandwidth, baby.
Roger. I'll tell you, maybe better than that. Do you know where your ALC meter position is? If you go to your ALC meter and make sure that your audio is up mid-scale to 2/3 on your ALC meter, that would be a good place to start. Roger.
Okay, on the ALC, I'm just right on the top of the line, buddy.
So I don't use a whistle. Just use speech, and speak into your microphone, and bring your mic gain up to where the meter is halfway to a 2/3 scale towards max, but not over max. Roger.
Okay, it's there. It's all the way up, over.
Okay, if that's true, then go to your EQ menu, Roger. And in your EQ menu, do you have a 3-band, 2-band, parametric, or what?
It's a 3-band.
Parametric?
Parametric. I'm trying to get him on the high one, the 3rd band, so that we can get I think his center frequency's off.
Yeah, well, if he just yanks on the top end, boosts the top end, it would be, if he can go half possibilities boost on the top end and see where that goes.
Yeah, Rick. The 3rd parametric, the frequency, if you can find that menu, there's 3 menus, of course. I think it's like 132, 133 or somewhere in there. You look around for parametric 3, set that frequency up at around 2,000. Anything near that, 2,200, 21, 1,900, somewhere in there. Your gain will be fairly high. That's going to be the other setting. And that should be about a 7. And the bandwidth, when you're up that high, bandwidth of 2, no more than 3. Now, I'm probably, I don't know if you're just first using the rig. This may be a little confusing. But, Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got this rig. You're right, so I am a little bit confused. What was that meter?
Okay, I'm going to find it. Did you say you're on an FTDX?
Yeah, it's a 1200. I'm on the MB100 mic, over.
Okay, that's a good setup. You made no mistakes. The 100's a good mic. The FTDX 1200 can have very fine sound. I'm going to throw it over to Jim while I look up the menus.
Roger, John. Tell you what, I'm going to late for lunch, man. I'm starving. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to say threes to everybody that participated in this morning's QSO-VLOG. We've enjoyed it, and we will be posting this on YouTube in the next couple of days. And this QSO from about 10:30 till now will be called by my group and by the date 9/14/18 and by the frequency 7189. So we'll be posting this in the next couple of days. Threes to all. John, thank you, sir. You catch it, take it from here. Catch you later. KC9VKV is clear.
Okay, Jim, my pleasure. You've made this a very fun day for me. I'm glad we hooked up. And I'll say 73 to you now. I hear the phone ringing. You want food. You got to get going. So KC9VKV, this is K2Y, and bye-bye, Jim.